we went through such similar things. I think I'm up a uterus on you.
You are.
You've got nipples and I don't. Yeah. Hello, and welcome to the Dating Without Nipples podcast, where we are taking the top off of insecurity and shame to show up for our most courageous and inspired lives. I am so excited, sweet souls, to introduce you today to Karin Ellis. Karin loves finding her passion and is always striving to grow emotionally through learning, teaching, creating, helping, sharing, and loving. She believes healthy eating encompasses and drives health and has always felt confident in her health. But on March 20th of 2018, Karin received a call from her gynecologist informing her that she carried the BRCA mutation and would need to have a preventative double mastectomy. The treatment journey would prove to be arduous, excruciating, soul-finding, and transformative. Karin found solace in her passion for cooking, food, farms, and markets, and started posting on her Instagram daily to generate awareness for buying local, improving nutrition in schools, and helping small businesses. She is the board chair of GOCA at the ENT Center for the Arts. Karin has come to terms with her terms and is feeling a freedom she's never felt. She's here to curate her own existence, but loves the power of community and hopes to bring larger meaning by sharing her passions, demonstrating that little changes go a long way. Thank you so much for being here today, Karin.
Thank you, Alyssa. I love that. Terms for her terms. That's exactly
I'm coming to terms with my terms. Yeah, it is. Yes. It is.
I'm trying daily.
Insert unconditional love here, right? Yes, absolutely. So I was really like you in that I always considered myself a really healthy person. I was just confident in that. And so I would love if you would describe what it was like when you went into your doctor and came to terms with the fact that you had this mutation and predisposition for cancer. Can you let us know a little bit about how that went down and how it felt?
Of course. I'll never forget the night that I got that news. And I think preemptively also when she had tested me and did the blood tests, I realized, wow, I could potentially carry this. But then there's a part of me that thought, no way, I'm healthy. My family history is healthy. This just has to be some strange coincidence that she would want to test me for this. Mm-hmm. And then when I found out, I went through the darkest tunnel, the darkest hole, because you realize like, wow, this could be me. Everything I ever thought was maybe a farce. It didn't really exist because I actually carry this mutation that is such a high percentage in terms of actually getting cancer. Mm-hmm. So it felt like a death sentence, to be honest, but I never knew that I would actually not believe in that. It just has taken so much time, so much practice, so many tunnels that I sometimes can still go down, but you just have to say, you know what? I'm healthy. I did preventative surgeries. I did the best that I could in order to not have any of this or carry any of this. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of where you hope it changes.
Yeah, it's a shift in identity. And when you talk about those dark tunnels, it really makes me think that when we're alone and we're afraid and things have shifted in our reality, really, our expectation of our health and of our lifespan and all of those things, especially going through all the fear of the treatment journey, being alone is not usually the greatest thing for being in those dark tunnels. So again, and I lead sisterhood, right? So my thing is always going to my sisters and my family and staying in community, staying in conversation. Who did you turn to and who were your caregivers, your support system when you were going through this journey, and how did that impact you?
I think you learn to what different people's strengths can bring you. And nobody can carry that one area that's going to fulfill all of it. So I felt like my husband medically really could, we would discuss like the statistics of it. Like if I did this, what would that do? How would that help me? And I find him comforting medically. And he really, I saw him reel from this too. And actually being in the medical community was pretty interesting because I think he had never thought that like his family member, his wife, would actually carry this. And he had looked at various x-rays of women who did have breast cancer, ovarian cancer. So we would just kind of say, all right, if I did this, then this would be, and I remember his big thing would say, once you do your surgeries, you will be below general population. And that was like so strangely comforting. General population, you're like pumping yourself up in this. But then I had, different facets of friendships. And I had two dear friends that showed up that night because he was in a meeting and sat down. And one of them, she had actually had breast cancer. And she was like, you can do this. Like, you can do this. She knew that I wasn't walking into a sentence, that this was a preventative measure and I could handle this and I could do this. I didn't know I could handle it. I didn't know what I could do at that moment. And then it's different people who show up through your journey, like bringing food, talking to you. I have a friend who would constantly kind of check in on me. And she had these eyes that I always said to her, just made it feel better. Like I knew that things would be okay. And another incredible friend would say, baby steps, just take it step by step. You can do this. And she was definitely somebody I called and felt okay with being vulnerable. And she would always say, day by day, Karin. And that broke it down, and that I didn't need to understand what was going to be the scope of this time period, that I could just take those feelings for the minute and really work with them, which was extremely helpful to do.
It's really, really great advice. I remember saying to my kids at one point, stay in the right now with me, stay in the right now. I mean, you only have one doctor's appointment to the next, one test result that you're waiting for to the next, to figure out what is the treatment journey going to look like as it unfolds. And we can't really put ourselves in a painful position. We can't get ahead of ourselves in that way, right? I remember saying to an aunt, I don't know if I'm going to have chemotherapy or not, but I'm not going to sit here and muster up the feelings of what sickness might feel like before I even know if that's on the table or not. So it is so helpful, baby steps and staying present and things like that. Now, we both had great support systems and friendships in place and things like that. And another thing that I know we've talked about off camera is figuring out our own system, right? We have a lot of support around us, but at the end of the day, we go through this as something that we have to move from within to find the courage and to keep going. And we're really the only ones that are feeling and experiencing it. And it brings up a lot of questions, doesn't it, about what is really important to me? What are my passions? How am I really going to navigate this? If I don't ever feel normal again, what does normal look like anyway? And what do I want to create from there? So what are some of the things that came up for you along the way that ignited either a new normal or just that sense of liberation?
Sure.
Of beating to your own drum?
So I think I had wanted to be normal after this. Like you had gone through life-altering changes to your body. And so for a while, things that I did felt normal and they felt good. And I think it was the turning point, believe it or not, of COVID, and realizing that there really was no normal. And I'm actually better just being me and creating what I want to do, because that felt right. That actually felt what I was really, truly capable of. So I could kind of cast aside any other expectations of what we should be doing. And I realized that I could create my own happiness and create my own passions. And it was through time and I remember joining this board, and it was with artists. And I sort of was searching for my own passion. I still was pretty broken. It was September 2019. I had healed from my last surgery, was feeling pretty good, was excited I could take my kids to school, going on the normal path. And I remember meeting artists and saying, wow, you follow your passion. And you realize that was allowed. Like, it didn't have to be something that you were immediately going to make money from, or something that everybody was going to say, wow, look what you're doing. You realize that there was this inner connectedness that they felt because they were creating their own dreams and passions and really painting their own thoughts and voices. So I think that sort of started. And then I think it evolved over time and how I was really engaging in community and beginning. And then I think, believe it or not, March 13th, when everything stopped and I was scared to go back to the abnormal because I felt isolated, I realized that I could begin my own journey and I could find that passion and share that because I knew how to do something hard. And I knew that you could just sort of create your own path.
Yeah. So interesting that we almost start with taking this for granted with this identity of, yeah, I'm healthy. Yeah, nothing's going to happen to me. That's, everything is fine. And we go through the adversity of the treatment, the isolation, the mental, emotional, physical journey. And to come out the other side and say, oh, I am strong. Oh, I can do hard things. I'm healthy in so many ways because of this. So, and isn't that more rewarding, really?
Yeah.
And more of a true confidence to go forward and say, oh, okay, I can do hard things. Now I'm healthy. I've survived. I'm not in pain anymore. And so it turns into this. So now how can I share? How can I give? What more can I create? And almost like what kind of a challenge can I opt into to keep the growth going and to keep these challenges flowing? So I know you challenged yourself to start putting the foods and the things that you were experiencing by visiting different markets and artisans and all of that through daily posts on Instagram. And can you share a little bit what that's been like? Because you've done over 300 posts now, right? You've been really consistent and are enjoying that expression of your passion. Can you talk a little bit about how you've opted into that new challenge and where you're going with your new journey?
Thank you. I think we're figuring it out daily. And what it really was showing up for myself. It was showing that I could do something every day, that we were kind of in that e-learning. There's so much uncertainty. Obviously, there still is in our world, but it's finding that happy place and finding something that ignites you daily. Like, I'll cook something, I'll use great ingredients. And then it's like just taking that picture with my phone and finding the right light sort of just gives me that satisfaction of like, I created something, I built something, and I finished it. And it didn't matter what was happening in my world, like things were probably falling apart behind the scenes. It was knowing that like I could be together, I could get this done, and I could show to myself that it was thoughtful with love and care and complete. Mm-hmm. So it kind of built this like stronger embodiment of creation, and that we can still be in total chaos and turmoil, but create these little areas of just true happiness by following our passions and completing that daily. And I really believe in that.
I do too. And it seems to go back to staying in the present moment, one moment at a time, baby steps. And here it is, bringing the focus to small accomplishments. I don't know where I heard it, but I've heard the expression that the opposite of depression is not happiness, it's curiosity. And so finding something, yeah, like you say, being present to what is the right lighting? What am I cooking? You're having the sensory smells, the visual colors, all of the things. So you're fully engaged, and then capturing it to share and saying, that's enough. I, I did that. That felt good. I did something courageous today. And the way that that continues to build our confidence, the way that we carry ourselves, and all of those things. Now, speaking of how we carry ourselves, and I'm getting a little bit back to the physical here, our
Sure.
bodies, I mean, we went through such similar things. I think I'm up a uterus on you.
You are.
You've got
And
nipples and I
ovary.
don't. Yeah. So we're a little bit mismatched here, but for the most part, the double mastectomy
Yeah,
and then going through a surgical menopause, a
yeah.
lot of things that take a real beating on our body image and our femininity, really. So how have you managed to stay confident, or how do you navigate the changes in your body after all of the surgeries?
Sure. I mean, things still are triggered, when my estrogen isn't quite right and you're not feeling like that confidence you felt last week. You're like, oh, here it goes. I'm really lucky to feel supported by my family. I have wonderful physicians that follow me. But what really gives me this like sense of we don't have control over anything, but eating nutritiously. And it really came down to when I had an infection post a homostectomy in my left expander. And I had to then be followed by an infectious disease because it was a pretty big area. Um, and I remember her saying to me, we would talk about food. She would kind of ask me what my passions were. And she was a real driver in like the believing of what I was doing. And she said, Karin, um, continue doing that, continue eating well, because that in the course of a body and infection, and really for people staying healthy, it's feeding your body the right things. You can't always prevent all of it, but you can help it. So that felt like my control. And that's why bringing to my community, I love people, I love community, and showing them not just like butter laden food. Butter's wonderful, but really, what can you do simply? Nothing's complicated that I make, but sort of offering this like daily of like, you could eat this salad and you just have a few ingredients. You could make this soup, and it's really just using the ingredients in your home. And this is feeding, I hope this feeds your soul. I hope you learn from this. And I hope that you kind of take this course to understand that this could change something for you too. So that sort of, those are like my daily offerings of hoping to change somebody's course in their health and that they feel inspired.
Yeah, and doesn't that passion take away from the insecurities of, oh, I don't know if my body looks right. Is this what beauty is meant to be? Is this femininity? Do you notice how quickly we shift away from even having those questions, because we're back into the feeling of our body. I'm nourishing my body. I'm feeding it the right things. My body feels good. So there's less of a question of, oh, does my body look good? So I love that. And again, it's so empowering how you speak to taking personal responsibility for these little things. It's these little things that we can do. We can take baby steps. We can do courageous little actions. We can make simple foods, but it really does add up. And then with the vitality that I can see that you're experiencing, to say, okay, I'm overflowing. I want to take this to my community. I want to share. I want to teach. I want to speak out. I just think it's really fantastic. So thank you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing. And I just have one final question, which is something that I ask a lot of the guests, and it's because you come and share and you're so generous with your story and with your insights. Is there something that that I, as the host and the audience and our collective sisterhood, anyone watching, can send to you? Is there some positive energy or something that's on your heart that you would like to receive that we could sort of send through the ethers your way?
Wow, that's beautiful, and I love that. I love your intentions, Alyssa. They are really heartfelt. They mean a lot. I think really what I actually want for sort of an outer world, and rather just than for myself, is learning how we can all work with each other as a greater community and learning to help one another, that small changes make bigger changes and they allow people to see a wider vision. And I think if we all learn to kind of use these gifts that we're given in teaching one another, I think things could be a lot better. And that's really my hope for just a bigger world. Not, I don't need it, but I want the world to have that. I want that interconnectedness, because that is where I feel the most alive.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I would love.
That's beautiful. And it's so true. It's the little things that spark from within that make us available to make small changes on a big scale when it all adds up in the world. So thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. Absolutely. And until next time, everybody, connect with your inner artist, nourish your body, stay present, be courageous, even in a little way every day. Stay courageous. Thank you so much. Until next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Olivia.